Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Method in Madness. This is episode number 26. I hope all of you have enjoyed all our sessions, all our webinars, all our episodes since we began in April 2020. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to everybody who has always been with us and to all the new viewers today. Please do subscribe to our channel, Joy of Drama, to get updates on our new webinars every week. Today, we are going to discuss the most thrilling topic of the academic world in the life of children, in the life of teachers, and definitely in the life of parents, competition. How to understand competition? What is competition? Is competition something which we have borrowed? Is it a borrowed meaning? Does it have a borrowed context? What is competing with your own self? Is it something that we really don't understand? Or have we ever tried to understand what competing with ourselves is? Is there a mode of competition? So we are in that competitive mode, and then we are out of that competitive mode. To help us understand competition, we have with us today Vimala Jacob. Vimala is an educationalist, an academic administrator, and she is the educational administrator of the Choice School headquarters. Mrs. Vimala Rani Jacob is a passionate and spirited educator who strives for excellence and quality in all that she does. She's a veritable pedagogical leader with deep knowledge of curriculum planning, interdisciplinary links, transdisciplinary links, differentiated learning, teaching, learning strategies, approaches to teaching and learning, and many more. She's a postgraduate in botany from Puducherry University and a diploma holder in French, an advanced diploma holder in French. She has been a very integral part of a very famous residential school, the Good Shepherd International School, Ooty, for 22 years, and now heads the education division of Choice School. I welcome Vimala to our show, Method in Madness. Welcome.
Thank you, Vaishali. Good evening to all. Yes.
Just to let everybody know that Vimala and we are going to talk for the next 40 to 45 minutes, and then we are going to take all your questions as much as we can and try to answer them. Vimala, today we are going to discuss a very, very important topic, competition. You have worked in a residential setup as well as you're working in a day boarding setup right now, and you've headed. So from a point of view of an educator, how do you look at competition?
For me, competition is a challenge that one faces or one comes by in life and is developing the resilience to face challenges after having lost it, and to get back to, the life all over again and, say that it is okay to lose and, and start a life where fresh is kind of a clean slate and learn from the experiences. So that's what I would see competition as. Today they keep talking about, there is healthy competition, unhealthy competition. I don't believe in these terms because competition is just a kind of, a way for a person to work on one's own competence and then kind of improve and then reach a stage where you feel that, okay, I have set the goal, I have reached the set goal. That's what I see competition to be. So it's to compete with oneself in simple terms.
Yes, we'll try to understand that a little bit more later. But a very interesting thing that I was doing when I was researching on competition, and this is to share with everybody who's watching us today. I was looking at the origin and the root of the word compete, and I have come across like really interesting definitions, which are very contextual. Like in classical Latin, uh, compete was to come together, and in French, compete was to become rivals. To get into a sort of rivalry. So you've studied French, and you have studied different languages. So, do you think that the words kind of take a different shape or a meaning when they move from place to place?
Um, I would say yes, because I believe in something called cooperative competition, where if
Mm.
you just now you spoke about, in Latin, it means
Yes.
that to work together, right? So that's exactly what it means in cooperative competition, where like I can take a scenario where in a dramatics competition, if you're looking at, there is a director involved, there is a character involved, there are light effects, there are theatrical effects, there are, backstage. So it's not that everybody is good at everything, but the children are able to identify where their strengths are and able to work their best there and give the best performance to the play, and at the end of the day they have worked together and made that play become, a big success. So that's where the cooperative competition comes in. So as you see it in Latin, so, work together. That's a very positive word. Whereas in
Hmm.
French, it is. I mean, to tell you correctly, it means rivaliser, to compete. That's the word that you use. So it's kind of a rivalry that you see. So if you look from perspective of education, if you're really looking at education, it's a set of skills and knowledge that you achieve through education, and that is something that kind of transmitted by education. That is the set skills and knowledge get transmitted by education, and that becomes the culture of species. You
Mm.
understand? So when it comes to the education, if that is what we are looking at, ultimately, what is competition? Is it just, winning? No.
Mm.
Competition, if you really look at how much of these skills and knowledge that you have been able to, acquire in the process, the learning that has happened in the process, that's what I mean, ultimately a competition. So that's exactly what the education should do, rather than look at competition in terms of winning.
Mm.
That's what I would like to say here. So the positive side of competition, as the definition clearly goes with Latin, take it in the right spirit, where we see that it's to work together and get the best out of each other. Yeah.
Each other. But Vimala, the scenario is such nowadays that uh, collective, competition or coming together and working together is something that people are kind of training themselves into, whereas it should be something which naturally happens. Whereas children, along with people who are involved in their education, that could be their parents, could be their teachers, they somehow also look at competition in a very individualistic way. Like, is my child doing better than the other? And somehow, somewhere I feel that when you do that, you seek happiness or you seek pleasure in somebody else's incompetence in a in a classroom or in a subject. How do you look at that? I mean, how do you look at individual competition?
Have you, the studies have shown that, you know, a big majority of parents go through this performance anxiety. Not that their performance, they go through this performance anxiety and they put the children through that anxiety, and the children carry that anxiety with them. They get terribly stressed out. And what happens is their performance gets affected because they are always trying to prove, yes, our parents, we should not disappoint our parents, we should do the best. So when it comes to parents, something that they have to really understand is that not everybody has made it big. The children have, each one have their own competence. They are able to perform only to what they are capable of. So when we try to live our dreams through our children, what happens is we are actually making them lose their childhood, which is actually wrong. Competition is not bad thing, I'm saying. See, like when you're looking at, if a child is going through any competition, but say you look at a competition and the child believes that there is a great potential in him or her, and she's able to perform very well but could not make it, the best there. So what happens is there the child reflects, okay, what went wrong, and from there the child is taking the learning, and through the reflection the child understands where the child has to improve, and from there the child is able to, improve in the next competition. So that learning is self-learned. There is a level of autonomy there. The child is given the autonomy to reflect and learn from that experience. But when parents say that, okay, you are capable of this much, you get this, if you don't do it, it's a shame. So the children start seeing themselves from the parents' perspective. And that is why today in the educational system, you have stress, you have depression, you have anxiety, you have suicidal tendencies. This has become a pandemic today. COVID 19 is not a pandemic. I can tell you that the pandemic is the psychological disorder the children are going through, owing to the stress that is built from the parental pressure that one child of mine has to prove, has to perform, has to stand out. So that's where the parents have to get to that realization that, the child is more important than anything. The joy of learning is more important. Let the child get the pleasure out of learning. Let the child widen the horizon, know more, make meaning out of what he or she is learning. So that's what I would tell the parents, not to get into that individualized mode of winning, winning, winning concept.
So, because you also head the education, you're the director of the education in your school. How do you think a school can help the parent reduce the stress? Is there any system that the schools, not just your school, any school can take up, or an attitude that the teachers can take up, which they can practice, which will help the parents also to reduce their stress of competition or examinations, to be very precise?
Um, why is, I'll just ask this question to you. Why
Yeah.
is Finland education successful? More successful than any educational system in this world? Why people speak so high about the Finland educational system?
Uh, I think it is more successful. One of the biggest reasons is population. India is a heavily populated country. And I think to get a system of education like Finland's into India is a huge task. And to get that competence in our teachers to kind of work with children so coherently, where there's no concept of grading and marking, and it's all learning together. I think the only reason that kind of education can't be completely brought into India is population. One of the biggest reasons. That's what I think.
You're 100% right. The success of Finland education is because, as you clearly said, it is because there is no ranking, there is no competition, there's just one examination, that is the end of the high school. The children don't go through that comparison. Okay, your child, my child is better than yours, or vice versa. The children don't have to go through that phase at all in their lives, at least till the age of 15 or 16. They don't have to go through that. So what happens is the child is going through the pleasure of learning, the joy of you know equipping himself with the skills or the knowledge. That's very important. And also, we are able to identify the intellectual capacity of children
Mm, mm,
by not judging them
mm,
through these comparisons. We don't see, you look at any system. Okay, let me not be very biased with our system, because
mm.
bias per se is also a competition if you really
Yes.
look at it. But when you're looking at our system of education, you can really understand that we are so exam oriented.
Mm,
You understand this? We are so rank oriented. We are so much into standardized examinations. So what happens is, at every level, be it a periodic test or be it a an end of the year examination, the children are put through that pressure of examination at every stage. So the child is forced to kind of you know accumulate knowledge. I don't know what in real sense the knowledge is here, but the thing is, it's
mm.
literally the rote learning. So the students are actually not able to understand what they are learning. So in Finland, the success story is that the teachers are equipped to put the children through that assessment at a regular stage, and they are trained to do that. As you say, the population is certainly a big disadvantage here,
Yeah.
but there is a drop in the ocean
So can we,
contributes a lot. Yeah,
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 yes. So can we kind of shift our definition of exam as assessment rather than looking who is better than whom? Maybe assessment. We did a Method in Madness episode with Dale Edwards. I think in episode 13 or 14, I don't remember. We were talking about assessments. And this really came up, is that when we're looking at examinations, are we really looking at how good we are, or how good we are in comparison to other people, or how good are we in the subject that we are learning or studying? So I think this is one change that all of us can make. I would like to ask all the parents and teachers who are watching us today, what do you think? How should we relook at the word competition or the word compete? Please share your ideas with us, because this is a platform where we share ideas, and maybe you and your idea, your thought may inspire one of us over here today. Vimala, moving on, this whole idea of competing with your own self. Now we keep hearing this. People tell you that you have to compete with yourself. You are your only competition. How can one understand that? How can a child understand that? Competing with yourself. Is there a way? Is there a method that we can, parents and teachers can use?
yeah, there is always a need to scaffold, you kind of a support system created for the child. So that is where we need to really understand what a child is in the classroom situation, or at home as a parent. You must have heard parents come and tell that, my child is very good with number.
Hmm.
My child is very good with languages. So whatever, if you're looking at, every parent or should have an eye for these details. As the child is growing up, we should kind of start looking at the child, where the child is able to kind of have an extra, what do you call it, an extra interest developed. That's where the
Yes.
competence is.
Yes.
So if it is with numbers, we have to actually encourage the child in that direction. And parallelly, we need to look at what the other areas of interest of the child as well. So we all have to come together, be it at the school level, be it at the at home. It's much easier because we are dealing with one or two, one
Mm,
child or
mm,
two children. See, I
mm.
go back to my residential setup. I can tell you
Yes,
where we
yes.
used to have children from age group 3 upwards. I mean, in the initial years. After that, we had children only from grade 1 onwards, that is 5 upwards. We need to understand that there we were parents there, and the children, yes, we did have that support system during the study hours, during the, we call it as prep hours. What we used to do is, when it comes to the lower classes, there is always a teacher in the classroom who moves around and checks what the child is doing, and just kind of applaud the child, well done, but the child is working on himself, working on the task by himself or herself. There is nothing called sit with the child and say that, do it, complete it, you have to finish the work. It doesn't happen. So the child has to be given that kind of an ownership to learn. So what happens is, that is where you're able to identify where the strength of the child lies.
Mm.
So when you're able to identify that, the way forward is easy. There's nothing difficult. So it is a little effort during the formative years to identify the strength of the child, and from there we can actually take the child, hold the hand in the beginning. That's where you call it as scaffolding, and
Mm.
then let loose and tell the child that you can be on your own. You can manage numbers by yourself, you can manage English by yourself, you're good at it. So this kind of phrases is going to actually make the child a lot more, independent, and that way the child will be able to really actually, what do you call it as, really able to display
Mm.
what the child's areas of strengths are. I'm not saying
Mm.
that it happens in a big way, but in small way we are able to bring in that, autonomy and ownership in the children. Identifying the children and putting them on the right track is quite easy.
Yes, it is very easy because I have seen, not just in the children that I teach, but also when I introspect and go back to my own childhood. I never really spent a lot of time studying literature or English language, but I scored very well, and it never occurred to me that this is something that I should go and do. And I ended up doing science, and I ended up then leaving science and doing commerce. And now what I'm doing, am I in commerce or science? No, I'm doing arts.
No, arts, yes. You're
So,
right, yeah. It's a long way, Vaishali. It's not that something
mm,
that you can discover. It's you keep discovering yourself as you journey. Because our interests change. Our exposure, our experiences will expose us to many things. This is one thing also that I would like to really stress upon, because most of the time we don't put our children through experiences.
mm,
We don't expose our children. The only thing that we expose our children is to the books that they have. So because for many teachers, many parents, it's convenience, because they have to really research on the questions that the kids ask us. Mind you, if a child is brought to the kitchen, if a child asks why there are so many layers in the onion, let me know how many parents can answer that question. If
okay,
a child,
parents,
yeah,
Vimla, let us
so
ask this question. Let us just put this question. How many layers and why are there layers in onion? Yeah, guys, don't look at Google. Just answer what you know. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, when the parents are not equipped to answer certain questions, what
Mm,
do we tell the children? Learn what is there in the book. Don't ask extra questions. You don't have to know that. You better concentrate what you're on. So what we have, we just show the children of there. We
mm,
shut them there. So the curiosity in the child is killed.
yes.
That's the beginning. That's the beginning of every destruction done, so we need to ensure that through our education, even in at home, I always tell our teachers that every inch of space has learning, so don't put the child through that pressure of going through the books. Tell the child why the table is why we have this particular sheet used on the table, why we have the wall painted with this, so you have to actually put the child, make the child think, why this shape of leaf, so there are many questions that you can ask the child, and that becomes the base to a child's learning. So inquiry, don't
Yes.
kill that inquiry and a curiosity in a child.
Yes, absolutely. Inquiry is the way. It has always been the way to learn, and it should be the way to learn. Um, Now, the mode of competitiveness or the competitive mode. Can we look at competition or being in a competition? Because competition is good, it's healthy. Till the time there was only Uber, I remember when Uber, the car service, the cab service, they used to, really be very, price themselves obnoxiously, and then they would, throw tantrums. No, we won't go here and we won't go there. They would cancel rides. But the moment Ola came in, suddenly the performance of Uber went up. I think competition really helps you become a little better than what you are. You come out of your comfort zone as well. But is there a mode that we can, switch on and off?
Interestingly, as per the some educators say that, make learning a little exciting for the children. Just move away from the usual lifestyle and kind of put the children through, a competition to make it interesting for them. It's a kind of loosely attached to the curriculum. You don't have to give so much of importance to that. So what happens is, the this kind of a competition actually doesn't have too much of attention attached to the kind of winning and losing. Perhaps this is where sometimes when you're looking at, the children enjoy that process and then get back and, get into the style of, your usual routine and move on. So this, some certain educators do recommend this, you just need to switch off from your regular and just get into something, which interests you, which makes you feel good about, the real learning concept, and then, get back to the normal. So that's possible,
Yes, it is possible. Actually, what I do at times, Vimala, with my children is when we are doing a project and it's going on for a long time, then we just stop and we play a game. So we play a
Okay.
board game, which is a game and it's
Yeah,
competitive.
yeah, competition, yes. You're
So
right, you're right. But
it,
again, it is
yeah,
it is also involving, an intellectual stimulation there. You're just not,
absolutely.
you're just not moving away completely from what is expected, but intellectual stimulation remains there, So there's nothing wrong in that. But still, they enjoy it.
Yes, they do. They do. Uh, uh, there's one thing which also is there, and I have seen children go through it. Children themselves become really stressed with competition. Maybe the parents are not stressed, and they're constantly telling them, "Then don't be stressed. It's all right." But the children themselves are stressed with exam, um, or with competition. What should a parent do in this scenario where the parent is doing everything that she can or he can to make the child feel comfortable, but the child is taking all the tension? What is the first step that the parent or the teacher should take in this case?
Now, this child, it is something that we need to look at very closely. Why did this child get into this anxiety mode? It's to go back to the roots. You know that we are so much into, like, from the childhood, there is something called milestones are being compared. Do you know that my child started walking at the age of 1. Your child has not walked yet. The child would
Mm.
be 1 year, you know, 1 year and 1 month. Oh, he or she is still not walking. There, the parent starts feeling the pressure. Why my
Mm.
child is not walking? At the same time, you can also look at certain parents get stressed out. The age of 3, the children don't start talking. You must
Yes.
have noticed. So their parents will say, at the age of 3, why my child is not talking? The stress is there. Unconsciously, over years, the child has gone through this kind of comparison, this milestone comparison. And what happens is, the parent's anxiety has seeped into the child as the child is growing up. See, at the age of 3, when the child is not able to speak, when the child starts speaking, the parents want the child to speak everything what a 3.5-year-old should speak, or a 4 year
Mm.
old should speak. So there is a pressure. So this kind of an anxiety has built in the child over years. So even today, when you tell the child, if you're telling the parent that you are so supportive but the child is anxious, mind you, this is the harm that we have done to the
Already.
child during the formative years. So as the child has grown with that, but now the only way you can get out of this is to make the child believe in himself or herself. The confidence building, building that kind of a, boosting the self esteem in the child, to look at the ways to build that in the children. And that requires a lot of support from the school as well as from. We know today how many children, as I said, anxiety, depression, stress, everything has come into the system. It has permeated into the system completely. So we need to understand that the children have taken the brunt of it. How much ever we try to say that we are not harming the children, we are actually very cool parents, we don't want our children to go through it, the harm is already done. Now it is to recover the child from there. So we need to work on. Yes, there are a lot of counselors. I mean, the children, there are counselors in the school today. We can see that very supportive counselors who really work very closely with the children and try to give them that support and work one on one, having that parental intervention. All these are going on in the school. So the schools have really focused on the mental well-being of the students and are working in that direction. So hopefully, to greater extent, we'll be able to resolve this.
Yes, and yesterday it was World Mental Health Day, and I think this is extremely important for all parents and teachers to address at the right time.
Yes.
Uh, so we were talking about the mode to get into
Yeah.
the competitive mode and out of mode. So is there a switch button?
The switch button, I don't really understand when we can switch on and when we can switch off, other than look at maybe when it comes to the. It's a continuous thing. I don't feel that when it comes to competition, you can suddenly switch off unless it's kind of a pleasure, at the fun mode. Other
Hmm.
than that, the competition is ingrained in the children. The ranking system, the grade system, all these, the award, the trophies. Maybe, it will take time to die. We cannot completely switch off. We cannot
Hmm.
get to that switch off mode at all, unless we are looking at that kind of for the joy of the children. We do something in terms of the competition in the classroom, as you clearly said, that put the children through a board game, still a competition, but learning is on. But these can happen, but otherwise completely switching off the children from the competition is something that I don't think is easily possible unless we have developed that right from their formative years.
Mm. So in this scenario, suppose we are talking about a 10-year-old child or an 11-year-old child in class 5 or 6, and the parent wants to change the way he or she wants to, has been thinking about competition. What is the first thing that the parent should do
I mean, to develop what kind of competition you're talking about? Putting the
to,
child through.
yeah, to undo what they have done or they have thought? Is there any way in, is there any step that they can take?
It has to be done slowly. It
Mhm.
has to be, it's like thinking. Faster you think, more judgmental we are, more prejudiced we are, slower we think, more deep we get into. Similarly, undoing the harm is not an easy process. It has to be done slowly, step by step, understanding how the child is able to kind of remove that resentment from the child, owing to the stress that the child has developed over these. I mean, a 9-year-old, that from zero to there is 0 years onwards, the child is learning, So,
Mhm.
whatever the child has learned or made or experienced in his lifetime, no, I don't call lifetime till the age of 9 or 10, undo is a slow process. So let's not hurry through that. Yes, I want to, make you better. Now come back and, get into this. No, it cannot.
Mhm.
Build the
Mhm.
confidence in the child. You need to do it slowly, and a lot of support is needed. We have to stand by the child and win his confidence and believe that we are there for you. Make the child believe that we as parents are
Mhm.
there for the child. So it's a slow process. We have to get into it slowly.
One thing that comes to my mind that probably I would do if I were a mother and I was in this situation is not ask my child what the other classmate scored. Maybe I will refrain myself from asking what was the highest mark, or I will refrain myself from asking what did your friend score. Maybe that is one of the steps. What do you think about that? Is it a valid step to take?
Um, it is fine, but again, we are associating the child with that kind of a grade, where
Mm.
we stop asking. That's what you're saying, but the grade
Yeah,
exists. The grade
yeah.
exists. You cannot completely, cut the child off, saying that, oh, I'm not going to ask your grade today, I'm not going to ask what is the highest in the class today. You
Mm.
cannot, because child being used to that question, the child himself or herself will come and tell you that the class
Mm.
highest is 99, and I got a 60. So again, because the child has learned it that way,
Mm-hmm.
so to make the child, you know learn or unlearn, or go through the reverse experiences, is something that we need to actually take it slow. As I said it clearly, it really requires a lot of patience from our side. As long as these grade systems are there, unconsciously we are going to go back to that, because in
Mm.
grade 6 you will say grades are not important. Grade 7, the pressure will build up, and then again you will start saying that how much did you get? How much is what is the topper? Again we go back, because we have to be the change makers first. We have
Mm.
to change from within. It's only then we can make the change. We can make a difference in the lives of our children. It's not easy task at all.
Mm. Uh, you have, in your experience, you have been with so many children. Now, have you ever come across anybody who kind of cried after not winning a competition? Any
Many,
child?
many, many, many,
How
many.
how do you deal with these children who come crying to you that we couldn't win the competition?
It's like from my residential school experience, I can tell you it is a very common situation, very common situation. You know, I am reminded of a student who was an all-rounder, and he actually spends a lot of his time on perfecting everything, because the only way he could actually get the assurance from his parents or from his friends, or that was only proving himself in being being an all-rounder.
Mm.
So one competition, this boy's house lost, and he also did not get the best actor, whereas He is wonderful. And I could see this child cry. I'm taking this example because always people thought that these are children who will accept, you know
Mm.
failures easily. So I went up to this child and I just held put my hand around his shoulder. He just broke down. I could not believe that this boy could cry. Then I had to take him to my office and make him sit down there. And then I had to talk to him, make him understand why it was okay to, not to win the competition or it to be, the best actor there. It was okay. When I tried to speak to him, I spent about half an hour talking to this boy. Today he
Mm.
writes to me saying that I felt very bad about that petulant behavior of mine during, but thanks to you for reassuring me. So what I'm saying is, it's not easy for children to accept failures. It's not easy because you have won the confidence of many people by winning competitions. That's how people started accepting you. And
Mm.
now, when you lose it, there you're going back to square one. That's what the child sees it as,
Mm. Mm.
So it's not an easy task for the children. So for them, winning is very important. But again, something that I felt is feeling the pulse of every child, knowing how every child reacts is something that I have understood being in a residential school because we are parents there. So this child is able to, accept failures easily. Okay, that's the pulse I felt with some children. No, not easily with certain children. You know, may put on a very bold front and say that it's okay, but when the reality strikes it's not okay. You know
Mm.
that. So that is where we are able to really understand that children require assurance, that it's
Yes.
okay to learn from
Mm.
your failures.
Mm.
That little bit of conversation with the children and giving them that assurance will actually work wonders in their lives.
Yes, yes. Assurance is something which actually not just children, all of us,
Yes.
always need, because the system is such, has been such, that a doubt is always lingering somewhere in the mind. And if there is one little assurance from a loved one, I think that works wonders in a child's life.
Yes.
Uh, I would like to now invite questions from all of you who are watching us today. I have a question, but I will ask that probably later on. But please write and type in your questions on the live chat, and I would love to take them on. There are lots of good comments that have have come in this evening. Uh, if we could have some of the comments that we have already had, especially the onion layered one. I think we got an answer for that, Vimala.
Okay. I would like to see that. Yeah.
Yes.
Is unique in their number of layers. They are actually the nutrition storage area for plant to survive. Yes. I being a botanist, actually I relate to these things faster. Yes. Thank you, Hilaria Preeti, for that.
Thank you, thank you. And please ask your questions if any, and if not, then I will ask my question. And this question is not just to Vimala, but to all of you over here. Is that if I want to start a competition, is it okay to ask the participants to form the rules of the competition? Vimala, what do you think as an educator? Suppose I'm planning a competition. How do you think that all the competitors themselves make the rules for the competition?
Each one,
Yes.
each one is given the authority. So which rule will you go by?
Maybe a collective, a rule which all of them kind of like. Somebody proposes a rule and everybody says, yes, I agree to this or I accept the rule. I think this should be the rule in the competition. What do you think about this idea? Can
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I would say perfect because as long as everybody comes to an agreement, these are the set of criteria that we have to use to evaluate this particular competition, and everybody comes to agreement with that. Ultimately, it's the children who have set those rules, and they know why they are winning and losing. So there's nothing wrong in doing that. It's a perfect way to look at it.
Yes, great. Ritu Mahal is saying healthy competition can be very motivating for our children. So, in the beginning of our discourse, you were talking about healthy and unhealthy competition. Uh, how would you like to respond to this particular comment? Healthy competition can be very motivating for our children. What is healthy
So,
competition?
yeah, that is something that I would ask Ms. Ritu Mahal to answer, how she defines a healthy competition. What is her
Mhm.
definition to healthy competition?
Yes, I think Ritu, we will look forward to your answer on our chat. Healthy competition, and then how would you define healthy competition? Is what Raji is asking. Yes, Athira is asking. Uh, okay, Tina is asking. There is a fixed mindset nowadays than a growth mindset, and there is a stressful environment created. How can we help here? How can we
But
de-stress the environment? Mm.
this is one topic that I was going to certainly deal with, in terms of the mindset and the growth mindset. Today's children are always put through what we want them to learn, as I said it in the beginning,
Hmm.
rather than kind of look at various avenues which they can challenge themselves with. See, if from a countryside, if a child wants to move to the town, and
Hmm.
from there to the city, and vice versa, go backwards, where child moves from city to town and to the village, right? What the child learns in this journey is something that we have to look at, rather than say that stay in the town and learn what you have to learn. That is where the fixed mindset is. We don't want you to learn beyond what you can learn in that. See, this is what we do with various curricula. There is a set curriculum, and this is called as institutionalized
Hmm.
education, where we just get into that comfort zone of what that set pattern is given to us, and we sail through that comfortably. We don't want to break away from that comfort zone. Challenge the children. As I said, for me, competition is to challenge. Keep challenging, widen your horizon. When you're standing in one place and look at it, the horizon, you see that to be the horizon. As you walk, what do you see? That's not the horizon. You keep exploring, and then you discover that the world is round. Then you start looking up at the sky. So that is what a growth mindset is. The children should be made to explore and experience beyond. That is when the child is actually getting into the real life experience, real arena of life. So our curriculum should encourage that. A system of education should encourage that. And even if our system of education is not encouraging that, the children are us. As parents, we need to know what we want our children to be.
Absolutely.
Do we want them to be with growing in that fixed mindset, living in that comfort zone, or we want them to move out of that comfort zone and explore and get into that growth mindset? No and no and no. There's no limit. Our intellectual capacity is such, we cannot set limits. If that has happened today, you would not have inventions, you would not have discoveries, you would not have any of this.
True.
Are we learning through our exams? Are we competing? Are we curious? These are the areas that we need to look at in order to develop deep in us that growth mindset. I hope I answered Tina's question.
Mamta is asking a very pertinent question, and this is a question I get from many mothers. My child is very laid back and does not really care about marks and winning. He's in the fifth now, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing. Please advise me, what should I do?
Now, the laid back, it is actually setting the path for the child. Again, here as parents, we need to really understand what is the competence of the child, where the child is strong at. The child might not be good with the books. The child might be strong somewhere else. Why is the child laid back? Why the child is not developing interest in learning? These are things which we need to reflect on. It's not a good thing to say that be laid back, I don't care about it. We need to actually get into understand why the child is having a laid back attitude. Is it the school? Is it what is expected out of the child? Or is the child enjoying the learning or not
Mm.
enjoying the learning? What is that the child can be, what is the exercise we can give to the child to make, the child excited about learning. Make an individualized lesson plan for the child, create that for the child, and let's see how the child is able to progress with that. And once we make that and we are seeing good progress, then we are in the right direction. So it's all about exploring and reflecting and seeing that how we can set the child in the right path.
Mm. Uh, Ritu Mahal has come back with her answer. Thank you, Ritu, for the answer. Healthy competition is where the focus is achieving your best and not competing with others. Like I said earlier, it is as if you are competing to achieve 100 marks and trying to better yourself. Bettering yourself is a great idea, Ritu, and I feel can we keep a tab? This is for Vimala. Uh, is it a good idea to keep a journal where you kind of write down what you achieved today and how better you are from yesterday?
In what sense?
In
You're
suppose,
better.
yeah, suppose I choose a few aspects, or avenues that I want to work on, and I kind of write them down, and I see whether I have bettered myself or I have moved, ahead in my learning of that skill. Is it a good idea to keep a journal?
Yes, it's always good to do that because we have to keep setting benchmarks for us while we are doing that. So, what is my next benchmark? What is that? Have I achieved that? So it's like kind of goal setting and seeing that we achieve before we move to the next stage. So maintaining a journal and reviewing that on a regular basis does make sense.
Somebody asked, yes, Hilaria asked, what is the ideal age to start talking to the children about the concept of competition? Because nowadays competition starts from play school itself. Yes, which is true.
I don't think it starts at the play school. As I told in the beginning, it starts perhaps, from the time the child is conceived itself. You know that you really don't know where the competition starts. It's kind of something that we can really not, come to an understanding where the competition starts. But children are going through competition right from a very early age. So we cannot associate that to just a play school. We need to know that the children have gone through the stress of competition through the parents, taking it on them from a very tender age, which is very unfair, because they make comparisons,
Mm. Mm.
and then the child goes takes the brunt of it. So how to introduce the child to a competition, it depends on what the competition is about, what that competition is about. Is it that, as you said, to just now you were talking about, as I don't forgotten the name of the person who just wrote to me saying that healthy competition,
Mm.
where the child has to start setting targets and then go through that phase, step by step, until the child achieves that 100.
Mm.
So that is where you see the competition to be from within, and need to also know that 100 is where. Is it in the area that the child is good at, or pressurizing the child to achieve that 100 where the child is not able to? It is like many a times I use this analogy we try to make an elephant climb a tree,
Mm.
and then judge that, they are incapable. Why? What an incapable fellow he is, because he is not able to climb the tree. An elephant cannot climb the tree. That's an understanding. But the elephant can reach the tree with its trunk. So we
Mm.
need to identify, as I keep, reiterating on this term, where we are looking at the competence, where the child's competence lies, and to
Mm.
make that child reach that 100, that is where we need to work on. So there's no point in looking at that 100 where the child is not able to. As I say, that children don't make big everywhere. Children make big
Yes.
somewhere, and that somewhere is that what we have to target.
Shubha Rao is asking, what are the ways to encourage a child to explore their interest, explore their strengths, explore an experience, etc.? How do we encourage exploring?
Let me get that question. What are the ways to encourage a child to explore? Explore through play.
Absolutely,
Explore through
explore through
play.
play.
Play. Make the child play at a very young age. Let the child go through. As I say, every inch of our space has learning. There is nowhere we can miss out on learning. It is what we want the children to learn is all the time that we are looking at, not what the child wants to learn. So let the child keep exploring every inch of space. Observe. Observe everything around you. It makes a lot of difference to the child. Why that arrangement, that floral arrangement? How many petals are there? I keep taking these examples because I very closely associate with nature. When I take a walk in the gardens, I just look at these petals and I look at the arrangement, the symmetry. So these are exploration. The child will have to keep looking at it and reflect why. So exploration is a process, and that process is there in every inch of space. I keep repeating that.
Yes, that is true, and this is a really good question, Shubha. Thank you for asking that question. Meena is asking, what are the learning outcomes from competition, especially if it is not one? Oh, the
Ex-
learning.
Learning outcomes. Again, look at your learning objectives.
Mm.
Learning objectives, you first have to look at what your learning objectives are. From your learning objectives derive the learning outcomes. So now in a competition, when a child is made to swim, for example, a swimming competition I'm taking, a child is made to swim in the pool. I know children who have just participated for the heck of participating, just to tell that I can go 100 meters medley. I can do 100 meters medley. You know why? How many competitors were there? Three of them. At least third prize I will get. They have jumped into the pool just to check if they have the stamina to do that 100 meters medley in the swimming pool. So what is the learning outcome here? Ability to hold the breath, longer period, have that stamina built and capable of completing the race on the pool,
Mm.
you know. So it is important that our learning outcome is always derived from the objectives, and to what extent we have been able to meet the outcome based on what is achieved. It's just not about winning and losing.
Excellent.
It's
Thank you.
about what is achieved.
Thank you. This is an excellent answer to this question, and I hope that Meena is happy with this approach to her question. There are many questions that have come, but I think we are short of time. But thank you, Vimala. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your knowledge and sharing your experience with us, because. it's experience that matters. Actually, we can read a lot of books on competition and competitive spirit, listen to a lot of motivational quotes, or motivational talks, but it is real life practice that actually teaches us how to look at various aspects of life, and competition being one of the most important
Yes.
aspects of life and living and surviving. So on that note, we come to an end to this conversation. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us at Method in Madness. And thank you, Vimala, again, for joining us from Kochi. I wish you all the best to your entire school. And I know these are tough times. All schools, all teachers are having a very tough time keeping up with the kind of competence that we need, to give to our children. And I really am thankful for this session today, Vimala.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Next week, we are going to talk about parenting. So I'm sure all of you are parents, along with teachers, if teachers have joined us today. And we're going to talk about traditional parenting and modern parenting and how they are similar or different. So stay with us and keep inspiring us by coming onto our show and interacting with us. Thank you so much. Have a blessed night. Thank you.